Hello, everybody. I see that we are now live. Uh, Hi, everyone. I will give this a moment just to let people come in. I want to make sure that people have the chance to ask their questions, and we will go from there. So, in the meantime, I can tell you a little bit about myself. For those of you who don't know, my name is Bryn Smith, and I'm your NDP candidate for Surrey White Rock. I have a master's degree in political science. I'm a housing advocate with BC Acorn, and I've worked for the Surrey School District for the last 2 years. So today, I'm going to have a little discussion on healthcare in our province, and particularly around this provincial election. It's going to be a really key issue. It's going to be super important, especially now that we live in the era of COVID-19. So, if you like what I have to say, you can always help out or make a donation by going to surreywhiterockndp.ca. And there's a form to sign up as a volunteer or to make a donation. All right. So, like I said, tonight I'd like to discuss our healthcare. We've seen a lot of promises from both major parties, particularly around a new hospital in Surrey and increased funding to other hospitals like Peace Arch. I want to clarify the record of the NDP on this count and push back on the Liberals' assertion that they would actually get this hospital built. For me, it's a very personal issue because Peace Arch Hospital has served me and my family very well, and I want to make sure that we have the best healthcare possible, especially now in the era of COVID-19. A vaccine, it doesn't appear to be around the corner, and so we have to prepare for what could be another wave. Thus, talking about which party is going to do what and why is crucial before we get to the ballot box. So let's run through the promises of both parties. In many ways, they mirror and relate to one another. The BC Liberals and the NDP are both promising to build a new hospital in Surrey to take the pressure off of Peace Arch and Surrey Memorial. Meanwhile, both parties are pledging greater investment in healthcare. What I'd like to do tonight is talk about the history of these promises. At first glance, they appear very similar. However, one party has the record to back up its words, and the other does not. So, let's delve into that. The BC Liberals have promised this new hospital before. In fact, they promised it would be built on land the NDP government at the time purchased in the 1990s. After the Liberal government came in, they sat on the land for 13 years before unceremoniously selling it at a discount to a Liberal-aligned developer. Afterwards, they did so while keeping MSP premiums in place, and in fact doubling them. The owner of the company who bought the land, Fairborn Lands, subsequently donated $25,000 to the Liberals. Of course, $25,000 was perhaps the least he could give, considering his company had bought the land at a $3 million discount off of its estimated value. As a side note, I feel like it's often forgotten exactly how bad BC's electoral finance laws were prior to the NDP's introduction of the new campaign finance laws. The maximum donation now is $1,253.15 exactly. I know it's a weird number, but it's a much stronger start to keeping big money out of politics. Lobbyists used to be a prominent part of BC's political life, in fact, and were often involved in shaping policy. When the finance laws were passed, the Liberal war chest was estimated at $13 million the year before, in 2016. Moreover, there was a massive rush to shore up the party's finances before the finance laws passed. The BC Liberal donors included major banks, Chevron, CIBC, and TD, as well as major real estate developers. While it's not in the platform, don't be surprised if the Liberals are interested in reopening those floodgates. Meanwhile, the NDP eliminated both MSP premiums and hospital parking fees, demonstrating a commitment to doing right by our hospitals and their patients. Moreover, our commitment to build a new hospital isn't an election promise. It's in our budget already. In November of last year, we included the cash to start building the hospital next to KPU in Cloverdale. This election commitment represents something we've already been preparing for publicly for almost a year now. That's mirrored by our commitment to add 7,000 new workers in long-term care and hospitals, as well as a new medical school in Vancouver. This is a commitment we've made to improve life in Surrey over the long term, not the short term, and I'm glad to be running with the party to deliver on those needs. Moreover, I personally question exactly how committed the Liberals are to building this hospital in the first place, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. A total elimination of the PST not only won't stimulate economic demand to the extent the Liberals would have you believe, it would also blow a $7 billion hole in the budget. Where do you think the Liberals will get the money from to build this hospital? We've been upfront about the need for deficit spending, and that's because we're building on our success in running balanced budgets for the last 3 years. If you're going to build a hospital, you're going to need a PST. If you're going to make sure people aren't paying MSP premiums or extra for their hydro bills, you're going to need a PST. PST only really affects the most expensive consumer goods and has a negligible impact on smaller purchases. No one is deciding whether or not to buy a $10 meal because there's an extra 70 cents in tax. However, saving $70,000 on $1 million yacht, that's a different story. That's $70,000 that could be going straight into putting in new ICU beds. That's $70,000 for more care workers. That's $70,000 that could go into a new medical school. It's tempting to confuse the parties on the issue of hospitals. It's tempting to say they would govern the same, or that they're both equally committed to this hospital in Surrey. But that's simply not the truth. Like I mentioned on Wednesday, the Liberals have a tendency to promise one thing and then do another. Meanwhile, the final assessment of the NDP's record in office has 79% of our promises kept when we were all in office for these last 3 years. Even more impressive considering the fact that it's a year before the end of a usual term. We don't just talk, we deliver. And in this riding, we need delivery. Just like our school lost that sat empty, just like our understaffed long-term care homes, just like our needed new hospitals. The Liberals will promise one thing and deliver nothing. The BC Liberals as an institution have no respect for this riding and our issues. And that's why I don't trust them to deliver on this new hospital. I don't. I'm proud to run with the party that's going to listen to our needs and make sure our people are taken care of. That's why I've put my name forward to be your representative in BC, in Surrey White Rock. That's why I've decided to step up and challenge the BC Liberals on their home turf, or what should be their home turf. Because the thing is, they've ignored us for way too long. They have ignored our needs. They've let our schools explode. They've understaffed our hospitals, and they've understaffed our long-term care homes. All of these issues are linked. All of these issues are linked to a party that simply does not care about human need. It cares more about all of the rich, wealthy banks and oil producers who donate tons and tons of cash to the BC Liberals, or did prior to 2017. That's who they're thinking of when they create these policies. So, I've said my piece on healthcare. Thanks everybody for joining. I'll be taking comments for now, so please let me know if you have any questions that you want to answer. And in the meantime, we can just hang out. If you liked what I had to say, please consider going to brynsmith.bcndp.ca to make a donation. Because the fact is that this is going to be a really short, tight election. And we have to make sure that we're putting the money in. The fact is that this riding, the BC Liberals are going to sink everything they have into keeping this one. They're going to sink as much cash as possible into expensive mail outs. They're going to sink as much cash as possible into social media. And they can do it. Like I said before, they had $13 million in their war chest. And that was before the sudden last minute rush that was present in 2017. They've had a while to sit on this cash. So, what are they going to do with it? The answer is they're going to run roughshod over the people of Surrey White Rock. The answer is they're going to simply buy their way into office and tell you that what you want is what they want. But that's simply not true. The NDP is the party that will stand with us and with the people of this riding. So if you have any questions or any comments, you can please feel free to type those in. And I will be continuing to hang out with you for a little bit longer. Thank you very much for joining me, by the way. It's appreciated. I know that this riding doesn't get the attention it deserves. And I know that here in Surrey White Rock, our issues are often ignored. So I'm proud to be here, and I'm very happy that you've chosen to join me. Let's see. Oh, thank you for the like, Trevor Marples. um, you can ask me about anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be about healthcare per se. You can ask for my stance on a variety of issues. Oh, as well, there was one person last time who asked about mining and specifically around uh, a certain area. I would have to go back and watch the video, unfortunately, but I do have that particular platform plank right in front of me here. And so I'm more than happy to go through the NDP's plans for the mining industry. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a mining innovation hub to identify and support innovation, offer training for workers in new technologies, regulatory excellence, environmental management, and low carbon approaches. Mining's still a core plank of our economy in this province. And so I'm very hopeful that such a mining innovation hub will help maintain the industry in a sustainable, healthy, ecological way. I mentioned last time that I hate dead air. I'm doing my best to get used to dead air and mostly just hang out. Um, let's see. I suppose I could talk about a few other things that have happened in the last little while. I was at Dogwood Park about a week ago today, and that was fantastic. It was great meeting all of you out there. Thank you so much for being there and joining me. Hmm. I've been mostly hitting the phones. It's been a lot of phone calling because for us, we're not going to be doing door knocking. I know some of the other parties will, but to me, I think safety is more important. I know that we don't get as much engagement with you over the phone, and I'm very sorry about that, but I feel as though it's the best choice to maintain safety during this election. Uh, all right. Otherwise, if there's no questions, I suppose in the meantime, I can end the broadcast. But I want to thank you very much again for joining me. Again, if you like what you heard, please go to surreywhiterockndp.ca, where you can find out more about me, sign up to volunteer, or make a donation. All of those things are going to be hugely helpful because we only have 2 weeks left and it's going to be all hands on deck. We've got signs ready to go out. We've got leaflets ready to go out. We just need bodies ready to deliver them. So if you have any questions about this, if you're watching this after the fact, you can always leave a comment on the video and I will do my best to respond personally to every single one. Oh, could you expand on the party's stance on care facilities for our elders? Yes, I absolutely can. So I'm actually doing a webcast on this on Wednesday. So in the meantime, I can pull up our specific commitments to long-term care. So for us, we're going to deliver 7,000 new frontline healthcare workers in long-term care and assisted living. So that's going to be a huge impact on loneliness, which I know is a huge issue, as well as getting seniors more face time and more care time. Moreover, we're also going to pass transparency laws so that long-term care facilities have to account for where their money is going, especially the public money that we give them in order to maintain their facilities. They will have to demonstrate that they're using that money responsibly and properly in order to continue receiving funding. As well, we're going to be massively expanding the nonprofit space. We're going to have a lot more care homes that are not for profit, and they will run as competitors to the private industry and keep them accountable. So that's our main stance on it. But for me personally, again, this is a very personal issue for me. I think I think a lot of what's going on now is that we view our elders and our seniors as being separate from the rest of society. That care homes are places where they go to simply live out the rest of their days in relative isolation from the broader world. And I think that's wrong. I think that's a hideous moral blight. For me, what it comes down to is that the issues that older people face and the issues that younger people face actually have a lot more in common than you would think. Housing affordability, for instance. I discussed this on the last webcast with education. But not only are young people not able to move in and live here, seniors are also being priced out of their homes due to increasing property taxes and property values that they can't possibly afford. So they're being forced into long-term care or into rental situations much earlier than they should be. On top of that, both seniors and our young people experience a great deal of loneliness. I know recent studies showed that most people my age can only name two friends that they have. And while I know that a lot of our seniors are even lonelier than that, the fact is that that's not a lot of friends. That's not necessarily enough friends for if you're facing crisis, if you have nowhere to turn. So for me, I view these issues as related. I view these issues as totally related. For me, the BC Liberals view both groups as expendable because they don't work for the economy. Because young people, uh, obviously, they're in school, they're not a part of the working economy. And seniors, they've done their time, they've retired, therefore, not useful to the economy. So as a result, both get underfunded, both get mistreated. And I think that what we need to do, especially in this riding, is bridge that gap. We have a lot of disaffected young people, and we have a lot of older people who are lonely and who are in need of connection. For me, what it comes down to is civic connection. I believe in civic engagement first and foremost. I think that what a political party can be is a party that's involved in the day to day affairs of people, not only something that shows up every 4 years asking for your vote, but something that's there all the time. If I'm elected, I'm going to use my constituency office in this way. I'm going to maintain a volunteer base, and I'm going to make sure that the NDP regularly appears in your community and that it's engaging with both young people who like and appreciate the NDP's policies, as well as our seniors, and bring the two together. Obviously, that's going to be more difficult in a time of COVID. Young people are less vulnerable, seniors are more vulnerable. And of course, that's also exacerbated our crises. But for me, it's more important to bridge that gap. It's important to make sure that our young people are connecting with our elders. For me, I'm the youngest person on our electoral committee by, oh, they're going to get so mad at me for saying this, by about 30 years is my guess. That's my guess. Everybody else is older, but the fact is that they have so much experience and so much wisdom that they've really helped me through this entire situation with running. And these crazy times, they've been stalwart. I can't thank them enough. And for me, I think that connection is missing for a lot of young people. I think young people they don't see our elders as much as they should. They don't recognize the importance that they have as fonts of wisdom, as leaders, as participants in civic life. So for me, it's really important to bring that together, to bridge that gap. And I think I'm in a unique situation to talk about this as a young candidate in a predominantly older riding. I know that there's this gap that exists. I know that there's not enough young people in this riding who really connect with the older generations, particularly because the older generations tend to be in long term care. They tend to be out of the public eye in a way that young people aren't, especially now with COVID. So for me, it's very important to bridge that. And I think that's going to be crucial to building civic life here in this riding. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to elaborate on that. I'll be talking a little more in depth about that on this coming Wednesday, but thank you so much in the meantime. I really appreciate your question. Please let me know if you have any more before I go. Oh, but you did that answer your question first and foremost? You can always reply and just let me know. It's cold out here again all of a sudden. I'm glad it stopped raining so that I could actually come outside. Uh, yesterday's, or not yesterday's video, the days all blend together. Wednesday's video. It was fun. It was great. The problem was the technical issues and the sun setting on me, which I didn't really realize would be a problem until the end of the video when I was only really lit by my computer screen. So I'm glad to have avoided both of those issues today. All right. Well, in that case, then I'll be off. But if you want to leave a comment on the video, like I said, I can still answer your questions that way, just not live in real time like this. And they probably won't be as long as the answer I just gave on the party's stance on care facilities for our elders. But I want to thank Karen for that question. And I want to thank all of you for having joined me tonight. So, like I said, if you want to get involved, you can always go to surreywhiterockndp.ca where you can read more about me, sign up to volunteer, or make a donation. All of those things are really appreciated. They're going to be really crucial going into this election because the BC Liberals are going to throw all the cash that they have into keeping the ridings that they think they can keep. And this riding is definitely one of them. But the fact is that we're out here. we're working hard and we're making sure that Surrey White Rock gets the representation it needs and deserves this time around. So, like I said, thank you all very much for joining me. Have a great evening.